Power Producers Shop Talk, where we are refining and redefining the sales game by equipping you with the tools you need to differentiate yourself in the marketplace.
Listening to the podcast is only going to get you so far. Why not take your game to the next level? Check out Power Producer Basecamp on killingcommercial.com today.
Tactical skills that'll help you provide deliverable value to your clients and prospects.
Want to have the sweet swag that we send out from the Power Producers podcast for your clients and employees? Check out policyt.com today.
And action items that you can provide to take your prospects and clients to the next level.
Want to create an online presence but don't know how to start? Check out crushingcontent.com. It's done for you, so all you have to do is show up.
This is Power Producers Shop Talk, production redefined. Are you ready to feel the power?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Power Producers Shop Talk. We are on the third installment of Becoming the Protege, and we heard from Mr. Sam Lorenz in week one and Mr. Joe Hollier, Mr. Hotel in week two.
Yeah.
And now we have Lloyd Brown here who's with me. And Lloyd and I actually have talked on the phone at least once, maybe a couple of times about stuff over the years. He's not too far from me over in Orlando and has been working in the middle market. And I got to be honest with you, I was really happy to see him apply. One of the things that I had mentioned at the beginning of the last episode was the disappointment that I had that we didn't have more female applicants. But I also feel like the same for other minorities as well. And so the fact that, you know, you're African American and you're throwing your hat in the ring, kudos to you, man, because that's, you know, you live in a world every day that I don't have to live in. You know what I mean? And so I'm thankful that you're in, and I hope that what you're able to do in the show is show other people like you, whether they be African American or Hispanic or whatever else, that there is an opportunity in the industry. And that's one of the ways that I want to use my platform, is to be able to make sure that we can continue to promote diversity inside the industry that has honestly been way too white for way too long. And, you know, I'm the demographic that seems to be the problem. I understand that, but my goal is that I also want to use the platform that I've been able to build to help promote other people to come into the industry, which is one of the things that I've said ever since I started Protege. I just want to highlight the industry, period. I think everybody has an opportunity, man, in life, period. You know, I'm not going to make controversial political statements, so I don't want anything to even be remotely construed as sounding that way. I think everybody has an opportunity to go out and get whatever they're willing to work for and put themselves out there for. And
Absolutely.
I think the insurance industry is probably, honestly, at least at the producer level, I'm not going to say, like, you know, getting into the politics of corporate and all of that other stuff, like at carriers and wholesalers and stuff, because you do end up with some political stuff there. But if you're going to go out and produce, I mean, you live and die by your own numbers, man. Like, I don't know, you know, I don't know how there could be any more fair competition than that. Is you go out and make what you can of the hand you're dealt. And so I just wanted to tell you personally, I'm appreciative that you put yourself out there. A lot of respect for you for doing that. I'm not going to take it easy on you. I mean, I hate to tell you, you know, you're going to get treated just like everybody else. But I think that's what you would want anyhow, or you wouldn't be in the competition. So,
Absolutely.
you know, talk a little bit about your journey, man. What made you decide you throw your hat in the ring? This is the first question I've asked everybody that I've talked to so far today.
Yeah. Well, my background is I actually went to school to be a pastor, first off. Went to ministry school for 6 years of all things. And so, born and raised here in Florida, and went to Florida State for a couple years and got in trouble there, you know, partying, drinking, the whole shebang, and essentially got shipped off to a ministry school up in Canada. And really, God changed my life there. You know, that's really where I feel like I started getting like a spiritual foundation and really forming my beliefs around who I am and what I offer, and, you know, what my purpose is and what value that I carry. And so that's really kind of informed every decision I made through my life, looking at it through a spiritual lens and really believing in my faith and believing that God has a plan for my life. And so, yeah, fast forward, was working in the
Then you believe in grace, and you're going to forgive me for losing my temper before I hit the record button, right? Because I went from
oh,
0 to 1,000 real quick.
yeah, 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 absolutely. That's hilarious. Yeah. So again, my background, I believe in grace. I extend grace. I receive grace. I mean, we all make mistakes, right? So, yeah, then got started in the insurance industry a couple years after actually going to school to be a pastor, got married. So 2014 and ended up working for a carrier on the property claim side and then went to personal lines, auto, home, and life and found myself here, in the middle market producing. And my reason for throwing my name in the hat with the Protege is really following you, buying your books, listening to your podcast. I stumbled across your podcast probably a year and a half ago on Spotify, and I think I literally listened to like 10 episodes in one day. Like I just binged your podcast because
You
I
having
was
trouble sleeping or what, man?
I was just looking for guidance and looking for training and looking for leadership and everything that you were sharing about work comp and talking about the mod and total cost of risk and all those things. That wasn't something that I was getting where I was at. And so having that training and having that leadership is something that I was really looking for at the time. And yeah, fast forward to now, I've watched the first two seasons of The Protege. Big fan of Derek and the guys, everybody who competed there. And I said, I want to represent, like you said. I've heard you say before, the industry is male, stale, and pale, right? And so I definitely believe that, there's an opportunity here. I believe in meritocracy. I believe that everybody has greatness within them. I don't believe that I'm a victim to anything, to any situation, to where I was born or what I look like. I'm not a victim to anything, and I can create the future that I want. And I think that the commercial insurance space is it's underrated, honestly, as far as being able to create wealth and create generational wealth. And I think a lot of people just don't know about it. And so to be able to put a spotlight on the industry and on the opportunity that exists, no matter who you are, obviously people of color, men and women, whatever it is, I've seen everybody be successful here. And I think that if I can contribute or bring strength or share my story to somebody and motivate and inspire them to go into the industry as well, then I want to do that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Why did you leave the pastor path? I mean, to get into insurance, what was the like light bulb that went off there?
That's a great question. So I was a youth pastor, worship leader. Was at a big church out in California, and me and my wife both. She's a worship leader as well. And it was almost like a vision I had, and it was like a fork in the road. And I felt like God was saying, you can work within the walls of the church, or you can get called into the business world and be outside the walls of the church. And it was like, which path do you want to take? And so I thought about it, prayed about it, and it was basically like I feel like there's a lot of great people that are inside the church. I know some amazing, phenomenal people there that are doing some great things, but outside the walls in the business world, I feel like there needs to be more, I guess, more representation there. And so that was when I made the decision. And literally, like the next month is when I got my first insurance job. But literally, and I was still doing a lot of that stuff. I was still on staff at my church. I was still volunteering, still leading worship. So I was doing both for a while. But literally, I made that decision to essentially kind of dedicate myself to be outside and operate outside the walls of the church, so to speak, and go into the business world. And I started working in insurance shortly after that.
I think it's interesting, man, because when you did you ever make, I mean, so I was listening to your educational background. I didn't hear that you ever like actually went to did you actually go through seminary and get through that? Okay.
Yeah, I was there for 6 years. It was
So
technically a 4-year program. I did 2 extra years.
well, you took the Tommy Boy approach. There's nothing wrong with that, man. You're
Right.
good.
Yeah,
I
six
did the
years
same
senior.
thing. Lots of people have gone to college for 8 years. Yeah, they're called doctors. Um, but in reality, I think that going through that educational track helps set you up to be a good producer
Absolutely.
because your messaging is different, right? I mean, not necessarily 100% different, but you're going to look through a different lens than what somebody who didn't have that experience looks through. I think that's one of the coolest parts about the industry because there's many, so much diversity in what you can prospect and go after and all of that, that
Yeah.
literally there's something for everybody. And that's one
Yeah.
of the things that makes it so attractive. If you want to, if you want to go and specialize and be the king of Cuban barbershops, by all means, you could absolutely build a vertical around being the king of Cuban barbershops in Florida or the Southeast or whatever else. Or,
Mhm.
you want to deal with after school programs and daycares, you could do that. You could go
Mhm.
after restaurants or hospitality. Everybody needs to be protected. Everybody has
Yeah.
operational risks. And I think that's really cool. And I think where you're at and the things that you've focused on and gone after kind of are evidence of where you came from in your educational background.
Exactly. And it's come full circle because now my main target is churches, religious organizations, and schools. And so I've essentially carved out my own niche going after
You
those and
found like
target.
three of the hardest things to write in Florida right now, brother.
Yeah, but it's been awesome because not a lot of people are doing it, to be honest. People aren't really specializing in religious organizations or in schools. And so I've been able to really cut my teeth and put myself in their shoes. One thing a mentor of mine told me is, cater to your strengths. And I remember one of the things we did at school was take the strengths finders. And my top strength in strengths finders was empathy of all things. And for years, I was so upset. I was like, empathy is like the worst strength of all. And I was like, I want to be strategic or I want to be a builder, or, something like that, something cool, something manly. And I was like, empathy sounds like such a terrible strength. And it really took me a while to embrace it and say that that's actually, when it comes to leadership and when it comes to connecting with people, empathy is probably one of the best strengths that you can have because I can put myself in somebody else's shoes. And that's really what I try to do is put myself in my client's shoes, understand their problems, understand their pain points, feel what they're feeling. And then that leads me to connect with them at a much deeper level. And so I've had success with that in connecting with leaders of Assemblies of God churches. I've got some of those as my clients. I've even got a couple synagogues. We've got some large K-12 schools, some Christian schools, some private schools, all across the board, some nonprofits that we've written. So it's been a great journey and it's been awesome for it to kind of come full circle and manifest in that way.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I mean, I don't envy you because I know how hard the market is over on that side. And I know that carrier capacity and
Hmm.
selection is drying up. But
Yeah,
to your point, if a lot of people aren't doing it, I've always said if the industry's going right, I'm going left because that's where
exactly.
the real opportunity is.
Exactly.
And you're basically proving that it's a much lesser competition pool because people are pivoting and going to other things. And I can appreciate that about you, man, because that means you're looking to solve problems for people as opposed to just selling them insurance. And part
Exactly.
of solving problems is figuring out exactly how you're going to get that insurance placed right now, because like the standard, and I'm not going to name carrier names, but the household names of the past are not the household names that are
Yeah,
in that
very true.
class at this point, right?
Very true. Yeah, but when you look at it, especially in Florida, property is still the biggest pain point, right? And so we do have a lot of property carriers and a lot of property capacity. You understand this, but there's been some more capacity coming back into the market. We've had some more carriers open up, so we've been able to deliver some decreases on the property front. But most of the clients that I work with, the vast majority of their spend, premium wise, is still on the property front. However, you're right. When it comes to the liability side, the sexual abuse and misconduct, we've got the educator's legal liability, the pastoral legal liability. The carrier pool is definitely shrinking for some of those risks.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that because I do feel like we're seeing a lot more capacity on property. Rates are softening a little
Yep.
bit, which, that's really kind of crazy considering how bad hurricane season was last year.
Last year.
We were
Yeah.
in it last year already, and then we had the two storms, and I threw my hands up on like we're here for at least another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And here we roll around, and it's like, wow, this is really kind of intriguing. I can't believe I'm getting renewals on the property side with double digit decreases in some
Decreases.
cases.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We've delivered some double digit decreases as well. And it's been exciting, honestly. I think it's interesting, how how quickly the market can shift because 2, 3, 4 years ago, we were having a hard time not delivering double-digit increases on the property side, and it was
Shoot,
painful.
man, I was seeing in some cases triple digit increases if things were
Yeah,
priced too thin. I mean, double digit was a gift for some of these people.
yeah, absolutely.
One
Yep.
of the things too with churches specifically, churches and schools and all that, is to your point on the property, at least over here, and I mean, I think it's kind of that way almost everywhere. Even if they have a new building, they still have a bunch of old property on the campus. I mean, it's
Hmm.
pretty rare that you go in a church. Like I can tell you, the church that I grew up in, apparently when you're Southern Baptist, you always have to be pushing for the next biggest building to be built, right? And
Absolutely.
so we were constantly having building campaigns and everything
Hmm.
else. And it's
Yep.
right around the corner from where my office is right now. The original sanctuary, which then became the fellowship hall, which then became something else, is still
Hmm.
on property. I mean, this thing's
Yep.
probably 50, 60 years old at this point, if not older. Then the worship center that was there when I was a kid growing up is also still there, but it's now basically for the Hispanic ministry. The entire service is in Spanish. By the way, a very humbling thing. I decided a couple years ago I'd buy the lifetime membership to Babbel to learn different languages, and my goal was every other year I wanted to learn a new language, at least conversationally, so
Mhm.
that if I travel, I would know if they were talking about me or not. But you, you don't really learn it the way you need to go sit through a Hispanic church service. I can tell you that. I figured that out real quick.
That's
But
hilarious.
and then they built the new worship center probably 10 years ago at this point. And while that thing is tilt up wall fortress type construction,
Hmm.
the whole property ends up being in excess and surplus because of the demographic of the
Absolutely.
rest of the buildings that are on there. So to me,
Yeah.
to your point, that's kind of a level playing field on the property side. You can just look at it and know, yeah, this
Yeah.
is going to E&S. So unless you've got like some special program that you have access to on the property side, and you very well may, based on your relationship with where you work, that's very possible. For somebody like me, not so much. And I'm going to have to rely on normal wholesalers and everything. But that puts you into the commodity trap, in my opinion. What am I really going to do for these churches if all I'm going to do is be able to go just get a competing E&S quote like everybody else? When
Right.
the reality is the other side is really there's a lot of opportunity, and especially when you get into the bigger churches,
Hmm.
specifically, even on the workers' comp side, not because there's a ton of premium. The church that I grew up in, I looked at it, they were a little bit behind on budget, and the chairman of the finance committee is one of my friends, and he asked me to take a look at the program a few years back, and I did it objectively. I had no interest whatsoever in representing the church. Like I just that's not my shtick. But when I got in there, I audited the mod, and the mod had gotten up to like a 144, and I
Wow.
didn't realize and I mean it was a decent amount of premium. It was close to 50 grand in premium, which if you write
Right.
churches, that's a
That's a
chunk
good
of
amount.
that's a good amount for comp.
That's a good amount. Yeah,
What
for
blew
sure.
my mind there was how all encompassing that class code is. Like they've got
Right.
clerical and other than clerical,
Yes.
and other than clerical is the wild west, dude. Like you could be
Yes.
doing anything in that class code, and the scopes manual basically contemplates it.
Yep. Yeah. So I've had that situation. That's actually a selling point that you hit on, is that what we do, one of the things I found is that those two class codes, one is 8868, which is clerical, and then 9101, which is all other. It's like 9101 is 10 times more expensive than 8868, than the clerical. And technically, there's a few things that you can use it for, but you should still put most of your employees, if they're standard employees, you should put most of them in clerical. So we saved one, it was actually a school, a big private Christian school, but we saved them $27,000 on their
Mm.
workers' comp by just having them reclassify their employees from one code to another. So yeah,
Well, the
and
other thing too, man, is when you're it has to be a good feeling to know that when you're putting money back into the budget, you're putting money back into
absolutely,
the budget for a place where it actually, like, in my opinion, really matters. I want to
absolutely,
be clear. I understand that the money matters to everybody that I represent, but
right.
let's call it what it is. Most corporations, companies, whatever, you give them that money back, they may buy a few more cases of liquor for the Christmas party or whatever else. It's
Right.
like, it's pretty rare in the circles that I run in with clients that they're, I don't want to say they're socially irresponsible, but they don't really have their cause out there in front of people. Now, some of them do,
Mhm.
and they do a really, really good job at it. And I would encourage more to do that. But knowing that you get $27,000 back and it goes into helping more people be educated, or,
Yep.
can support a missionary somewhere, that might need financial support from the church, or have it go into the building budget or whatever else. I mean,
Yeah.
you sleep well at night, brother. That's what I'm saying. You're going out, you're helping people, but you're helping people who have a purpose, and your ability to help reduce cost furthers that mission. So,
Yeah.
whether you're a pastor or not, you're still making an impact through what you're doing now. It's just a different way of doing it.
Yeah, it definitely brings some satisfaction and, helps me feel great about what I do. And it's not just slinging insurance policies, but actually making a big difference in people's lives. On the school front, if I know that the savings, if we save the school, basically 25%, we're able to reduce their insurance spend, that those are more programs that they can use to impact those students. We had one, they actually gave the money to their employees as a bonus. I'm like, that's amazing. Like that's awesome. We did have one church who said they were going to use some funds to update a new building, or update the bathrooms in one of their older buildings. And so, yeah, definitely, it's not like it's just going to the CEO's pocket or the president's
Right.
pocket. It's going to impact lives and to help change people, which is what we're all about at the end of the day.
Well, and I think those make for really good storytelling when you're
Mhm.
sitting down talking to prospects too,
Yeah,
because instead of saying, "Hey, we saved this person 25 grand," you can say, "Hey, our cost reduction enabled this church to be able to do ABC, or this school
absolutely.
to be able to do this."
Yep.
That's going to resonate with people. I mean, they're obviously going to be able to connect the dots that if you save them money, they can do these other things. But I think when you have multiple tangible examples that you can use at the point of sale, and I mean, for me, that's the one thing I've given everybody a tip that I've interviewed so far on the podcast today. So I
Yes.
told Sam what my tip was for him. I told Joe, but I think, from your perspective, if I'm in your shoes, I'm telling that story through my
Yeah.
marketing materials and everything, but I'm not the one who's telling it. I'm going to get the people that were involved at that organization to
Yeah.
tell that story for me, because it's got more credibility, whether it be video testimonials that you can creatively package and get out in front of people, or it's something static that's a marketing slick or whatever else. And, you could even it's a fine line, I imagine, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't want to be, you can't be so in your face with the marketing that it looks like the only reason you're doing this is to market to get more business.
Mhm.
If your heart's in the right place, I think your marketing is going to follow what your heart says, not what production numbers are screaming at you or whatever else. But
Mhm.
I do think that, I would have, like, every year, these are the following things that we accomplished through our ability to save for churches and schools and nonprofits, and then just show that, right? I actually
Yeah.
sit on the board of a nonprofit that's over by you that works with developmentally disabled people and gives them the opportunity to
Mhm.
live a normal life and normal and fruitful life. And I know what every single dollar that can come into that organization can do for the people that are part of it that we serve. And,
Yeah.
if you were able to come in and say, "Hey, we saved companies like yours this much money," I'm automatically going to think about that, right? But I don't know how many
Absolutely.
people actually think about stuff in those terms. And I mean, that's a
Yeah.
huge differentiator for you as a producer out there on the streets, is having the ability to share those wins, tell those stories, but let other people do it on your behalf. That's the most powerful marketing you could get.
Yeah, and it's really reframing it, from a just pure savings perspective to now what can you accomplish with those savings?
Yep.
How can you empower your mission or help your people or, improve your strategic reach for whatever it is that you're doing? And you're right. I've told those stories, but I haven't had the actual end clients tell those stories. So that is a great. I'm taking down notes. Already learning from the
Well,
mentor, the protege here.
here's the thing, man. I look at it like this. If because I've supported missionaries all over the world over my life, and if I could go in and say, if I'm going in, I'm gonna, from a prospecting standpoint, if I can find the causes, whether it be worldwide or local or whatever, that are important to that church, because they're going to put it out there. They're going to say, we
Yeah.
have missionaries in this area, and for every dollar you donate, we can deliver one Bible to somebody or whatever else. I'm not going to talk to them in dollars anymore because I know what the conversion rate is. I'm going to say, how would you like to be able to give out 10,000 more Bibles? And that sounds way more impactful than 10,000 bucks when you have a multi-million dollar
Absolutely.
budget in some of these churches.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm writing that down. Give out 10,000 more Bibles.
And I
Yeah.
think, and I think people are going to be more willing to be vulnerable and have those conversations with you too, because you will have shown you took the time to understand. And I'm going back now into more regular sales rhetoric as opposed to
Right.
specifically where you're at, but you took the time to understand what's important to them and you
Hmm.
made it what's important to you. And you've shown that. And that goes back to exactly what you said of empathy being such an important skill for you to have. And I mean, Chris Voss talks all about it all over the place and Never
Yeah.
Split the
Never
Difference.
split the difference.
Tactical
Yep.
empathy is like one of
Hmm.
the main things he hammers down. But that's something, I think that is part practice, but the other part of it is woven into the fabric of who you are. You're either an empathetic person or you're not. You
Right.
can learn to be more empathetic, but the reality is, there's still plenty of us out there who are going to say, rub some dirt on it and get back in the game, and not take the time to put ourselves in that other person's position. So
Yeah.
I think that self-awareness and knowing that trait is what's going to help you be successful is helps you in far more than just being able to handle insurance and risk management needs. It helps you as being a father, which I know you're proud of that situation. It was in your
Yep.
original video, and a
Yep.
good husband and all of the other things. And I'm working on it. I grew up in an era. I don't know how old you are. I'm 52 now, but we talk about it
Mhm.
all the time. Empathy wasn't a thing. We just used to get in a fist fight in the neighborhood and figure it out, and we'd be back playing together the next day again, like nothing ever happened. And part of me's like that. And the other thing is, I've got three boys, and my youngest is a little girl. And the older she gets, the softer I get because
Mhm.
it hits completely different. I actually put a post out on LinkedIn today. This is her first year in junior high, and you could have held it up on a huge poster in front of me and told me that it was coming, but she's changing dramatically. She's moved. She's no
Mhm.
more. She's not my little girl anymore. She's a young lady now, and
Mhm.
my job is not to protect her from the world, but to prepare her for it. Make sure that I do that by being a positive example as much as I can be with how I treat her mother and how I teach her brothers to treat her and all of the females in their life and everything else. And I have become more empathetic since I've become a girl's dad. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
If she,
Yeah.
if number four would have been a boy, whew, you better stay out of my way, man.
Empathy out the window. You're gone
It's
at that
gone.
point.
Yeah, no, I have zero empathy for those clowns. None.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have three girls and a boy, and
oh,
so
you're the opposite.
I'm the opposite. And we just had our youngest, so she just turned a month old. And you're right, it goes by so fast. First off, my oldest, I'm a little bit younger than yours, but my oldest is 10, and so she's fourth grade. And I mean, even
You got
now,
2 years, brother. You
yeah,
got two
you're right.
years.
Yeah, they're changing, they're growing, they're evolving, right before your eyes. And me and my wife always go back and look at all their baby pictures because we're like, we feel like this was just yesterday, that they were, literally this big that you could hold them on your chest. And now they're, asking for money and wanting to go watch videos and go hang out
I
with
don't
their
care if you're
friends.
4, go get a job.
Right, right. Doesn't matter. You got to learn how to produce over here. So yeah, it
Hey,
definitely teaches.
my oldest is a hustler, man. If I would have told him that, I had to go find where he went because he was out making money somewhere. I can promise you that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that into my kids. I feel like we're working on it. And so yeah, but it teaches you a lot. Definitely being a father, being a husband are two of the things that I'm the most proud of. And like I said in my video, that's a big reason why I do what I do, is because I want to, represent for my family, represent for the people who went before me, and just be a good representation for them, so they can look back and say, they're proud of their dad and what he accomplished.
And you're going to be able to do it in such a way that you'll give them a life that they couldn't imagine they would ever have, man, if you do it
Absolutely,
the right way, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, I know you grew up. What did your parents do when you grew up? Like, how did you grow up?
So, yeah, so my mom was a stay-at-home mom, which, even today's standards, I don't think that that's ever changed. Is salaries and everything has gone up, it still puts a strain on the nuclear family if mom
Right.
stays at home financially. I want to be very clear about that. It
Hmm.
makes it to where you have to learn how to make a lot from a little. And
Yeah.
so, I would say that the things that I took away from my childhood is my mom was like, we never went without anything. You know what I mean? And we didn't know any different. So my dad was a state trooper when I was born, and then when my brother and sister were born, my mom said, I'm not getting that call with 3 kids. You're done. And so he took a
Wow.
job as an accident investigator with U.S. Steel and worked his way up and was essentially a career risk manager. Now he runs the
Oh,
PEO division, or is one of the people who runs the PEO division at Aon nationally.
oh,
So,
nice. Awesome.
um, but career risk manager. But I tell you that because we didn't. I never went without anything. We never focused on like the brand names of stuff we had. Like, to give you an example, like one of our favorite things when we were kids is in the summer, right as soon as school got out, my mom would take us over in the station wagon, which we had the quintessential station wagon, to
Yes.
Joanne Fabric, and she would let us pick out the fabric that she was going to make our shorts from that we would wear for the entire summer. And so
Wow.
she made that stuff for us.
That's
And
awesome.
we didn't eat out a lot. If we got McDonald's, that was like a real treat for us. It might be once a month, once every other month, but we always had food on the table. And I watched how my mom shopped and how she planned meals and even the things. And it's funny because the things we didn't like then, now we wish we had because we miss those times, and the flavor takes you back there kind of in a time machine to some
Right.
degree. But we didn't have a ton, man. And I'm okay with that because I think it makes me appreciate the fact that I can pretty much have about whatever I want today. And
Mhm.
I don't, because I don't want to overstep, but understanding how to live within your means and just grow up in the time that I grew up has really helped me. And
Yeah.
one of the things I do talk about is, as my dad was progressing through his career, we moved every 2 or 3 years. Like, that was
Mm.
just nature of the beast. He either got
Yeah.
a new job within U.S. Steel, or then ultimately left and came down here, which brought us to Tampa the first time with Florida Steel. But every time it was to take a step up the ladder, and he had to travel a lot, and he wasn't around for a lot of stuff. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that as a knock at all. He had to do what he had to do to provide for his family. And his number one thing was he wanted my mom at home. He wanted the nuclear family so that she was with us. But that came at a sacrifice with a lot of time away. And, ultimately, I hated it. Like, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
I hated growing up and moving every 2 to 3 years because I was
Yeah.
always the new kid. Bullying wasn't a thing back then, man. You got, like I said, if they pushed you, you turn
Yeah.
around and pop them in the mouth, and you either win or you lose. But it was
Talk with your
squashed at that
hands.
point.
Yeah.
It was honestly a lot simpler time. I just wish
Yeah.
we could do that today. But every 2 or 3 years, we didn't have cell phone, we didn't have
Mhm.
email. You just kind of like disappeared off the face of the earth if you didn't come back to school for the next year. And you really had no way unless you send a handwritten letter to somebody to tell them what happened or where you were. And
Yeah.
the whole time I'm growing up, I'm starting over every couple of years. But I look back on it now and I'm thinking, this is why I can walk into any room and find common ground with people
Absolutely.
today.
Absolutely.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. And so, if you're a younger producer out there and you're running into things like that, just lean into who you are and where you came from. You will always be okay if you can do that. And I think that life has a funny way of molding us into what we are. And we don't always see it when it's happening, but it's real easy when you look back to say, oh, now I get it, And I'm
Yeah.
at that age where I know I've lived more than I have left. And so I reflect a lot.
And you can look back now and be grateful for those times, right? Because
100%.
that's what prepared you to get to
Because
where
I
you are now.
definitely was not then.
Right, right. Absolutely. Same here. I grew up without a dad. My mom and dad that got divorced when I was 3, and my mom is an entrepreneur. She's a dentist, and she had her own dental practice, as long as I've been alive. And so she was always at work. She was always at the practice. And so me and my older sister, we were on our own a lot, but I think she gave us a great life, looking back, being a single mom. We weren't lacking for anything as far as, clothes or food or whatever. Um, and I'm really grateful for that time because it taught me a lot. And seeing her and how she built her business and how she was able to do that essentially single-handedly and still be successful, even to this day, still working, has really motivated me and encouraged me. And so, yeah, you look back at your life, and in the time, it's easy to complain or be down on yourself. But fast forward a few years, it's giving you the tools and the skills that you need to take that next level.
100%, man. We got a couple minutes left. What do you want them to know about Lloyd before I let you run?
I mean, I'm just grateful to be here. Really happy for you, David, and everything that you're giving out with your platform. And I just want the people to know that the middle market is a meritocracy, that it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter where you came from, or the color of your skin, or what you look like. If you have the mindset, if you have the hunger, if you have the desire to go out and make a ton of money and set yourself up for generational wealth, you can do that through this opportunity and through the PNC insurance space. And I think a lot of young people, I just want to get them and open up this door to them, because I love to go to colleges or go to schools and say, hey, insurance is a great place to be. I see some people in the life and health space. I see a little bit more diversity there, but when it comes to the PNC middle market, there isn't much yet. And I think that's going to change soon.
Well, we're going to, man, side by side. You got my word on that.
100%. Well,
All
thank you
right,
for your time,
brother.
man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you jumping on with me. I wish you the best of luck. I told everybody it's like I got 9 kids right now. The number one question I get is who's the front runner and who do you think's going to win it? And my answer is 100% the same. Completely unbiased. It's like I got 9 kids. They have their own quirks and idiosyncrasies. I want every single one of them to win, and I don't love one more than the other one. It's
Yeah,
actually a pretty cool position to be in, and it's really forced me to focus on just remaining completely unbiased, which honestly has been easier for me than what I thought it would, because I focus on the work product, period.
yeah, yeah.
Anybody who gets the boot, you did it to yourself. It has nothing to do with me. There are no favorites whatsoever, and I just hope everybody wins, man. So best of luck to you. I'm gonna
Thank
let
you.
you run, and I hope you have a good weekend. Everybody else, we'll catch you next time when we're talking with Mr. Brian Shaw. See ya.